As you know, in a few days we will enter the latest version of Honkai Star Rail, which is version 3.6. And one of the things that makes the enthusiasm of the players increase in the latest version is the appearance of the latest form of March 7th, which is called Evernight. Evernight is an ice-type character with a Remembrance path which has HP scaling. One of the strongest points she has is that she is predicted to be the best sub DPS for Castorice, because she has a kit that is able to jack up and maximize the kit from Castorice itself. So, instead of lingering any longer, my name is Hoyostation and we will get into the ultimate guide of Evernight version 3.6. Let's do this. Do you have a character or weapon in the game that you really want but you don't have enough stellar jades? Here's a smarter way to recharge your favorite games like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Look no further than Lootbar. Lootbar is the most reliable top-up platform. It saves up to 23% for all orders compared with the official channel, and it provides an 80% off for your first purchase. It's 100% safe as you will only be using your UID. We will buy pack for 3000 stellar jades for $42, which otherwise would have costed $50. Totally saving $7.5. We received the crystals we purchased in the less than 3 minutes. All recharges will be done through the official channel with miHoyo, which allows you to enjoy all top-up offers. Ready to level up your gaming experience? Check the link in the description to get the amazing discount. Okay, we will start with the base stats first. Of course, as a character that has scaling at maximum HP, Evernight has a base HP that is somewhat higher than the base HP of characters in general, which is 1319 points. Although if we compare to Castorice and also Mighty, she has a slightly lower HP, with a difference of around 200 to 300 HP. In addition, one of the statuses that I need to highlight here is the maximum energy part, which is quite large, namely at 240 points. Of course, this number reminds us of several current meta characters who have a high maximum energy. Let's call it the Herta and also Aglaya. However, even though she had a large amount of energy, you don't need to worry because she has a trace that can provide additional energy every single time there are Memo sprites in the team using their abilities. And now we will move on to the kit part of Evernight. The main kit that you must understand from Evernight lies in her skill section. Her skill, Day Gently Sleeps, will reduce her own HP to summon her Memo sprite named Evie and give a buff to all allies, namely an increase in critical damage by 24% from Evernight's critical damage. In other words, the higher the critical damage of Evernight, the more powerful the effect of this buff. Although this buff has an interesting effect, one important thing you should know is that this skill is able to give Evie 50% HP restoration without using any skill points. This means this skill will contribute more to the Castorice's new buff every single turn. Oh yeah, this skill will also give you an additional 2 Memoria if used not in Darkest Riddle mode, and 12 Memoria if used in Darkest Riddle mode, making this skill one of the largest kits that can provide additional Memoria. Then, next we will discuss ultimate called O Wakeful World, Good Night. This ultimate will give attacks to all enemies that rely on Evernight's HP, then make Evernight enter a special mode called Darkest Riddle. This mode has a pretty cool effect, guys. If Evernight is in this mode, enemies will receive a 3% increase in damage received, a 60% increase in damage dealt by Evernight and also Evie, and they will both be immune to crowd control during this mode. The duration of this Darkest Riddle is determined by Evernight's charge, where when using ultimate, Evernight gets 2 charges that will be reduced when Evernight uses an ability called Dream Dissolving SDO. And we will talk about her talent. The talent named With Me This Night will automatically summon Evie when she enters battle. Her Memo sprite named Evie has a speed of 160 by default, and has maximum HP of 50% of Evernight's total HP. So the bigger the Evernight's HP, the greater Evie HP, which will certainly increase the number of new buffs Castorice receives when using the Dream Dissolving SDO. Oh yeah, one important thing that you must know is that every time Evernight or Evie loses HP, either from enemy attacks, character effects or effects from Line Cone, Evernight will get 2 Memoria. In addition, these 2 units will get a 60% increase in critical damage. And lastly, when Evernight has 16 Memoria or more, Evernight can give Eevee an action advance and immediately activate her main ability called Dream Dissolving SDO. Oh yeah, you should note that this effect can only work if there's Eevee in the field. If Eevee is not in the field, then this effect will not be active. Okay, now we are going to discuss her technique that has pretty simple effect. When this technique is used, Evernight will give the same critical damage increase buff as her skill and gain 1 Memoria. This technique is quite simple, but the benefit is that you don't have to use the skill from Evernight at the beginning of the turn and can switch your skill point to a character who is wasting skill point. Then now we will talk about Evernight's trace. For the first trace called Dark the Night, Still the Moon, I think is among the most interesting. This trace will increase the critical rate of Evernight and also Eevee by 35%. Then when using abilities, it will consume 5% HP and will give an additional 15% increase in critical damage for 2 turns. Now, the interesting thing about this trace is that every time Evernight uses Dream Dissolving SDO, we will get an additional 1 skill point. Makes Evernight a unit that can generate additional SP within the team. Then for the second trace, named Rose the Flame Lull the Light. When entering the battle, we will gain an additional 70 energy and gain 1 Memoria. Well, the interesting thing about this trace, when there's a Memo Sprite from ally that uses their ability, Evernight will get 5 additional energy and get 1 Memoria. Honestly, this trace is quite important and is the key of the kit. This means that Evernight must be paired with many Remembrance characters in the team so that she can get additional energy and Memoria so that she can trigger her ultimate faster. And the last trace that we are going to discuss is Kindle the Morn, Drop the Rain. This trace will give a sizable amount of critical damage to all Memo Sprites in the team. Interestingly, if we pay attention, the biggest addition of this trace lies in number 3 and 4, which will increase critical damage by 50% or 65%. This means that we need to have at least 3 Remembrance characters in our team to be able to make the most of this trace. Before we move on to discussing her Eidolon, we will try to discuss a little about her Memo Sprite named Eevee. Eevee has 3 passive talent effects, the first of which is named Solitude Drifting in Murk. Eevee has immunity to crowd control, but is much more likely to receive attacks from enemies. On the other hand, when Eevee is on the field, Evernight and Eevee will gain a 50% increase in damage dealt. This talent is quite interesting, because Eevee acts like a tank character in charge of taking damage from enemies. Although this is quite risky, because it only has 50% of Evernight's total HP. So, if there's an attack that has a large enough damage, it has the potential for Eevee to lose the fight. Then, for the effect of the second talent, Night Trailing in Step. When summoned, Eevee will immediately get a turn. Of course, it's nice to have. And the third is You, Parting Beyond Reach. When Eevee disappears from the battle, it will give Evernight a 10% speed boost. And when Eevee disappears due to the effects of Dream Dissolving SDO, each point used on the attack will increase the extra speed for Evernight by 1% for every 1 Memoria. Of course, this effect of talent is good enough to speed up Evernight to get a turn back and call Eevee back on the next turn. Okay, now we are going to talk about Eevee's Memo Sprite skill. The first skill is called Remembrance, Whirling Like Rain. This attack is an automatic attack that is launched when Eevee gets a turn, and the target of this attack will also be automatically selected. Interestingly, this attack will deal greater damage for every 4 Memoria possessed by Evernight. The more Memoria you have, the greater the damage. And the last skill named Dream Dissolving SDO. This is the main kit that belongs to Evernight. This skill can be active if Evernight has at least 16 Memoria. And just like the previous skill, every Memoria possessed by Evernight will deal additional damage. One thing that is quite interesting is that after using this skill, Eevee will consume all of her own HP and disappear from the fight, which means additional points for new butt for Castorice. And finally, we will discuss her Eidolon, which is quite important. For the first Eidolon, it was called Sleep Tight, the Night Dreams Long. When Evernight is in battle, the fewer enemies there are, the more Memo sprites in the team deal up to 150% more damage. Well, it's a pretty good Eidolon, and I think it's very useful for some endgame modes like MOC and also Apocalyptic Shadow. As for the second Eidolon, the effect of this Eidolon will increase the critical damage of Evernight and EV by 40% permanently. Then every time Evernight gets a Memoria, Evernight will get an additional 2 Memoria. And the most interesting thing, when using Ultimate, Evernight will get an additional 2 charges. Well, clearly this Eidolon will increase the frequency of Evernight to be able to unleash her strongest attacks with a high frequency. This is because Memoria fills very quickly, making Dream Resolving SDU can be launched almost every single turn. Interesting, isn't it? Now, we will move on to the next Eidolon. Wake up, tomorrow is yours. The effect of this Eidolon will obviously make all the Memo sprites in the team can easily make enemies enter a state of weakness broken. The effect of this Eidolon is certainly good, especially if you combined this effect with One Mei. But I think this effect can only be properly used in some content, such as Apocalyptic Shadow. Then for the last Eidolon, like this always. When Evernight is on the field, all allies will get a 20% increase in all type resistant penetration. And most interestingly, when Evernight uses Dream Resolving SDU, Evernight will get a cashback of 30% of the amount already consumed. This effect is obviously very cool to make Evernight the main DPS in the team, with Evernight often using Dream Resolving SDU. And finally, we get into the discussion of build for Evernight. Currently, the best relic that can be used by this character is the latest relic called World Remaking Deliverer, whose 2-piece set effect can increase critical rate by 8%, and for the 4-piece set effect can increase the user's maximum HP and also the Memo sprite by 24% and increase the damage of all allies by 15% when the user uses basic attack or skill. Honestly, the effect of this relic has a very good effect, guys. Since Evernight acts like a sub-DPS character who has a lot of buff and debuff abilities, this relic is very appropriate. On the other hand, Evernight already has a lot of critical rate status. So, unlike Castorice, she doesn't need a relic called the Poet of Morning Collapse. As for the ornament part, you can use the Bone Collection Serene the Misty. This ornament is an ornament that is very suitable for almost all characters who have scaling to HP, including with Evernight itself. But unlike the ornaments you wear for Castorice, you need a lot of speed status in it to be able to maximize Evernight's kit. Oh yeah, here I will also list the main stat and also substats that you can wear for your relic and also your ornaments. And next we will discuss a little about light cones that are suitable for Evernight. Right now, it's clear that the best light cone choice for this character is her signature light cone called Two Evernight's Stars. This light cone offers everything you need to make Evernight a sub-DPS or main DPS, because it can provide maximum HP increase, ignore 20% defense, increase user damage and also Memo sprite by 30%, and provide additional energy. So, it's clear that the effect of this light cone provides many things that other light cones cannot do. Then what about the light cone option that can be used? Actually, if you don't have the signature light cone, you can use other light cone options, such as Sweat Now Cry Less or the Flower Remembers. These two light cones offer increased damage for Evernight. But unfortunately, these two light cones are difficult to get because you have to buy Battle Pass first. Memory's Curtain Never Falls can also be used even though it can't increase damage output. But this light cone can give you an increase in speed and also increase the damage dealt by all allies by 16%, which is quite useful. Oh yeah, you can also use another light cone called the Story's Next Page, which can increase the number of HP from users, which will certainly be useful for Evernight. But unfortunately, other effects of this light cone are not suitable because it focuses more on sustain type character. And next, we will talk about teammates for Evernight. As I have discussed in full in a separate video before, Evernight is perfect for pairing with all the characters on the Castorice team. Some of them are 3B, Hyacinth, RMC, and even Siren, which are planned to be released next patch. But one thing that I need to mention here again is about Hyacinth's signature light cone. This signature light cone has a very good effect for Evernight, because every time a user uses a basic attack, skill, or ultimate, Evernight will immediately get 4 stacks of Memoria. Because Hyacinths have a very high speed, it makes her Memoria even faster to accumulate. And of course, this will increase the damage output. But in addition to the characters I mentioned earlier, there are certainly some other characters that you can use, even if they can't be fully utilized. These characters are Sunday, Cypher, and also Ruanmei. These 3 characters have quite good effects, such as Sunday's skill that can give Evernight and Eevee an action advance to maximize their kits. Ruanmei, who can provide a lot of buffs such as all-type resistant penetration, increased weakness break efficiency, increased speed, and more. Okay, now we're going to talk a little about which is more worth it, between EIDOLON or her signature light cone. Honestly, if we make a comparison between the two, both offer interesting things, but both offer different things. Where in the EIDOLON part, Evernight has an additional buff for all allies in the team that can deal additional damage to enemies. The fewer enemies there are in the field, the more damage we can produce. While this effect can't be used to its full potential in all situations, it would be great for certain content like MOC or Apocalyptic Shadow. On the other hand, her signature light cone offers an effect that tends to be more universal, increases maximum HP, ignore 20% defense, increase damage from users, and also immune sprite by 30%, and provide additional energy. So this effect will be able to activate at any time effectively without any conditions in it. In addition, you can also use this light cone as an alternative to Castorice if you don't currently have one. So obviously, personally, I would prefer to take her light cone. Personally, I think that although Evernight can deal damage to enemies as a sub DPS, the main ability that many players are aiming for is because she acts like a support character in the Remembrance team. Plus, the value of this character is predicted to increase thanks to rumors circulating that in version 3.7, Siren can make Evernight usable as a powerful main DPS for the upcoming meta thanks to some of her kits. So, even if you don't have Castorice at the moment, I would still highly recommend taking this character, because she will have a resemblance to Alexa who can be a DPS or sub-DPS role in the team. But there are things you guys have to note. Although Evernight has a myriad of positives that I can discuss here, this character can currently be classified as a niche character, which means that this character can only be used effectively for certain teams, which means if you currently don't have a supporting character like 3B or Hyacinth, then this character is less effective to use. So I suggest you to take another character. Okay guys, that's all for this video. What do you think about this character? Do you plan to pull Evernight in the next version? Please leave any comments down below. And don't forget to check out my other videos because they're just as cool. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video.